In late 1939, Joseph Stalin was looking to expand Soviet territory, so he decided that Finland was an easy target due to its weak military and small population. At first, it looked as though a swift Soviet victory was inevitable. The Finns had only 200,000 troops against over 750,000 Soviets. The Finns were also outnumbered in tanks and aircraft, only having around 30 tanks and less than 115 aircrafts, while the Red Army possessed 2,500 tanks and almost 4,000 aircrafts. Although the Soviets had an overwhelming superiority of personnel and equipment over the Finns, they still faced a massive problem as the command structure and leadership of their military at the time was in complete disarray due to Stalin's Great Purge of 1938, which saw hundreds of thousands of Red Army personnel executed, including some of the most experienced officers and commanders, which would put a huge strain on the entire army. Before the invasion, Finnish High Command decided they were going to wage a defensive war behind a line they called the Mannerheim Line, which lied on the Karelian Isthmus, a piece of land lodged between Lake Ladoga and the Gulf of Finland, where the bulk of the Russian forces were attacking due to its vicinity to Leningrad, one of the USSR's most important cities. The invasion began on November 30th, 1939, and as soon as the war began, the Soviets faced heavy Finnish resistance along the entire front, and many Russians were easy targets for Finnish snipers, such as the infamous White Death, who was a sniper who gathered a staggering 505 confirmed kills against the Red Army by the end of the war. Red Army soldiers were also easily spotted by Finnish soldiers due to not having proper camouflage, instead wearing traditional, brown, Red Army uniforms which heavily stood out in the snow. Finnish soldiers, on the other hand, wore white uniforms to blend in with the snow and were also much more experienced in winter combat than Soviet troops. The Finns also frequently used skis, which allowed them to traverse the terrain much faster than Soviet troops. Throughout the war, Soviet aircraft would drop what they would call Molotov bread baskets in an effort to confuse the Finns that they were food aid packages, but in reality, they were a cluster of incendiary bombs dropped on Finnish civilian targets. In return, the Finns created the Molotov cocktail, a glass bottle containing a flammable substance, in which a rag was inserted and then thrown at Russian troops and equipment, blowing up on impact. In February, the war began to turn in favor of the Soviets, as Semyon Timoshenko replaced the previous commander and took control of Soviet forces in January, and was a much more competent commander, bringing in fresh reinforcements to fight the Finns. In the next couple months, Finnish forces became completely exhausted and overwhelmed by the Russian forces, and on the 12th of March 1940, they signed the Moscow Peace Treaty, ending the war the next day. In the end, Finland ended up ceding over 1/10 of their territory to the USSR, including the entirety of the Karelian Isthmus. But they prevented the Soviets from reaching their main goal, which was taking the entire nation. And this showed the Red Army's ineptitude and inefficiency to the entire world, and would inspire a well-known, projected Austrian painter to invade the country in the following year. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing, as it would help out the channel a lot, and thank you all for watching.